Hey, at this time, it is 5:32. I call this meeting of the Building Committee to order. The next item on agenda is public comment. Do we have public comment, which we do? Ms. Silva will be reading it.
Okay. Good evening. Today's January the 12th, 2021. Public comments for 112 SBCISD Board Committee meeting. Dr. Carmen, Mr. President, and the board of members of the board, I'm sorry. My name is Mary Maney, and I think y'all know who she is. And I am a teacher at San Benito High School. I appreciate the chance to make some comments on the following agenda items for today's committee meetings. Overall, I really appreciate the fact that you're being innovative and proactive in response to the current crisis that faces our community. You make it easier to be proud to say that I am a member of the San Benito family and that we're some of the more forward thinkers in the valley. Admin item 2.5, amendment to DEC local. I applaud the fact that you're willing to consider those who are the most adversely impacted during this time. As far as I have been able to tell, San Benito is the only district in the region who's making the partial payment of leave balance available to survivors in the event of employee death. It is a shame that it takes a crisis of this nature to make us aware of how the district can help. This is a basic humanitarian step that I applaud the fact that San Benito is willing to step up and provide this sort of help. I have worked in my district in several different states, and you are the only ones that I have seen this being proposed in. I encourage you to make this amendment and thank you for whatever or whomever caused you to make the proposal. Amendment item 2.6, extended EPSL. This is going to come to a surprise to her. Again, I want to congratulate San Benito CISD for being proactive and stepping up when the federal government is stepping down. EPSL, which allows us up to 80 hours of paid leave, not charged to the employee in the event of COVID quarantine, is a much needed benefit as most employees do not have 10 days of leave in the reserve for such a required absence from work. It is a shame that the government did not extend the CARES Act that originated the benefits, especially since we're not through with this pandemic. The proposal that San Benito CISD step up and provide this benefit as needed is the sort of behavior and forward thinking that should be associated with San Benito and the concern about the health and well-being of its staff and employees. Again, I encourage you to make this agenda item for approval in the next board meeting. Special board meeting item 2.2, resolution to allow SBCISD to assist Cameron County. Thank you for being willing to help with the vaccination process by allowing trained SBCISD employees to help meet the needs of Cameron County public health offices. This is a demonstration of the commitment that is being shown by this board to help with the well-being of not just the staff and employees of this district, but the importance of this role that we can also play in the county at large. This sort of effort is part of what makes me proud to say that I am part of the San Benito family. Thank you kindly, Ms. And this was by Miss Mary Maney, the high school teacher here in San Benito. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for kind words.
Oh, yes. She always does have kind words.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 2.1. This is a presentation by the Brighton Group on the Natatorium Performing Arts and Indoor Facility. At this time, I will turn this over to the Brighton Group. Mr. Palacios will be giving us some info on this. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Corona.
Yes, sir.
Sir, if I may, I want to talk to these gentlemen just so they can introduce themselves to the new board members, just so everybody can know who these key players are as far as all our construction is concerned. Okay, Mr. Corona, if you don't mind, sir, can I please proceed with that?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, gentlemen, can you all hear me? Mr. Robert, Mike, David, Joseph?
Yes, sir.
Humberto. Okay, so just take a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves to our new board members, sir. It's going to be the first time that you're going to actually have a presentation for them. So we have 4 new board members. So can you please introduce yourselves so they know who you guys are and who you represent? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Corona.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to all of you guys.
Hey, everybody.
Well, I can see Humberto here on the right-hand side. Who wants to start?
I will. My name's
Great.
Humberto Rodriguez, and I'm an architect, the Roadway Architects. I'm the project manager for San Benito, PAC and Natatorium. And welcome, everybody, and thank you for having us.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Robert?
Or I'll go next. Hi, my name is Robert Macheska with GDJ Engineering, and we're doing the civil design for the PAC and Nat site, the entrance project that was done, and all the civil in the project. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you,
See you.
Robert. Mike? Come on.
Hello, ladies and everybody,
Hey,
gentlemen. How are y'all today? It's nice to
Good.
see you on this cold day. Hope we can keep each other warm. I'm Mike Alex, principal at ROFA Architects. With Luis and Humberto, we're the 3 principals working on your project. It's an honor to be with y'all today and showcase what's certain to be your flagship building. Hopefully we can answer any and all of your questions as we present to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you. David?
Good
David?
afternoon. Yes, hello. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Hi. Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year. Happy New Year.
David Iglesias with PBK Architects, project manager overseeing the indoor practice facility, which hopefully will be complete in the next couple of weeks. So,
Yes.
David, good to see you. It's been a while.
Mr. Moreno, how are you?
Doing
Congratulations.
great. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jose? Rios? Jose?
Hi, how's
Hello.
everybody doing? This is Jose
Doing great.
Rios.
Thank you.
Jose Rios with Rofa Architects, the assistant project manager, assisting Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Alex, and Mr. Figueroa.
Thank you. Luis Figueroa?
Yes, thank you. I'm Luis Figueroa, principal with Roadway Architects. It's really great to see the new board members. Congratulations. We've been
Thank you.
working very diligently with the construction team and the project manager, Joseph. We look forward to presenting our part of the projects and look forward to a successful completion on your project.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Isidro?
Isidoro, good
Isidro,
afternoon.
there you go.
Hi, Isidoro Arjona.
Hi.
I'm with Raba Kisner Consultants. We're the geotechnical engineering consultant for the project, and we were also selected to provide the materials testing, the quality assurance during construction. It's good to see you all.
Thank you.
you.
Happy New
Likewise, sir.
Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And of course, Mr. Palacios, good evening. How are you, sir?
Good evening. Happy New Year,
Hello.
everybody, board members,
Hello.
welcome new trustees. I want to personally welcome you all on board. Mr. Corona, Ms. Yanes, Ms. Lopez, and Mr. Moreno. Glad to finally come to meet you all. Obviously, with me comes an extended team. We have project managers. Alice is there. We do got some construction inspectors as well. And Eddie, Arnie, all of them. I know Alice is on. Some of them won't be joining us today, but I'll lead the efforts in today's presentation. But along with us also, who will not be joining us this evening, are some of our subs that had an impact on a level of service throughout the projects. Ms. Warren with Warren Group Architects, as well as CSR Management. as well as PGT Law Firm, who's helped and assisted in a lot of the contracts, the development of the contracts and negotiations, and some of the things that we did early on. But welcome. Was that everybody, or did we leave anybody out on the introductions?
Yeah, we got everybody.
I believe you got everyone.
Perfect. Well, Chairman Corona, I can lead with the agenda item if you'd like. Obviously, we did put a presentation together. It's a 58 slides that will kind of take us through where we were, where we are, and where we're going on all the projects. If you'd like to, I can go ahead and screen share and start the presentation. I will tell you that I will not be the only one doing the presentation as well. I'll be assisted by David Iglesias with PBK when we're on the indoor. When we get into the PAC Night Civil, Robert Macheska will be assisting with any questions and answers. As we're getting into the vertical construction, Mike Alex and his teams, they're going to do their slide presentation. And then there's always going to be an opportunity for a lot of questions. There'll be two right at slide number, I believe number 25. We stopped at that point to open up to any questions. That's literally will be done with the indoor, and then we'll be moving into the civil. Slide 57 will offer the opportunity to start going into some question in regards to the last three other aspects, which is the civil for the PAC-NAT site, the performing arts, and the natatorium. So without further ado, I can get started on the presentation.
Yes, sir. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and screen share. If you just give me a second to set up real quick. There will be a moment where we do have Mr. Mike Alex jump in on his presentation, part of the presentation. And I'll let you know when we get to that point. Let me get to the screen share now. Let me know if you see nothing. We should have the PowerPoint brought up. Do you all see that?
Yes.
Yes, I see
Yes,
it.
sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
gonna
sir.
start the slideshow and we'll start from the very beginning. Again, I'm Brighton Group. I'm representing Brighton Group. We started as your project managers. I want to say now going on somewhere around the 2-year mark. We are happy to be selected to represent San Benito. Again, it's beyond me. There are a handful of direct employees with Brighton Group, all various project managers, construction inspectors. We did have some procurement as well as legal, as well as some other elements that we've done some peer reviews. But again, along with me comes a whole slew of different individuals that have assisted along the way. Table of contents, we'll go over the overall bond program in the first section. Then we'll go into the indoor multi-use practice facility. Section 3 will start covering the off-site civil crossing. Section 4, the site civil construction for the PAC and NAT. And section 5 will go over the performing arts facility in the natatorium, and then a brief snapshot of the budget summary. These are your bond projects. When you went to the voters on the bond election, the majority of your constituency voted for the bond. They identified 3 projects that they wanted to construct. One being the indoor multi-use practice facility that's located just south of the stadium, as well as the performing arts facility and a natatorium, which will be jointly occupied on the site next to the Freddie Frender water tower. The original, I know there's a misconception out there, and I've heard it from time to time. When we began on the bond program, there was a lot of planning and program development that had to be done. Once was an idea and a hope. We'd had to put all of that, give it its respect, due attention, meet with stakeholders, come down and really realize what was the hope of the bond committee of the district and what they wanted to realize in those 3 respective facilities. So there was a lot of planning and program development that was done early on, which followed into the procurement and contracts negotiation phase. Obviously, there was a lot of introductions today, and along with the projects comes engineering, architectural, specialized subs that come under those respective trades all the way to the contractor and all of their subs. We had a heavy hand in working through all of the procurements, the advertisements, the contracts negotiations, up to where these items were presented to the board for action. The fourth element, which there's a lot, really the lion's share of a lot of the roles where all of us are working together to mitigate and get to construction, is the schematic design, the design development phase, budgeting and value engineering, the development of construction documents, all the way to the guaranteed maximum price bid and contracts negotiations with that respective contractor, and obviously working through with the city of San Benito on the permitting. The last phase is a construction phase, which, you know, most people believe that's everything. Not necessarily. There's a whole lot when we're talking about specialized buildings, and the need to really go down to assure that we're adequately addressing a lot of, you know, your financial assets in the bonds, and making sure that we maximize those dollars as best as possible. And always, every one of our firms, as well as all the representatives, have always been directed that we must do everything within budget, within what was sold, the bonds that were sold. I'll start on the indoor facility. These are the respective partners that have come together. Brighton Group as project managers, PBK Sports, they're your architect. They are no stranger to these types of projects. They've built them all around Texas and throughout the nation. The Hellas Group was your contractor. Again, no stranger to the game. They're very inundated in these types of projects. These are the additional project team members with us. I have identified some of them. They've had some role in the very beginning and throughout the project, through the architectural. Obviously, we're talking about a steel structure. We've had structural engineers in Chanin, Trinity with MEP Engineering, Hefner Designs on the landscaping design, Melvin and Hunt, civil engineers. They assisted with all the civil needs, as well as Robert Kistner, which Isadora is joining us on the geotech side. Again, with your contractor as a CMAR, all projects were voted on the board to go through a CMAR process procurement. Hellas Group is your contractor, and those are the associated subcontractors that have played a role in the construction. So as you can see, a lot of people were employed through these individual contracts that had a role in the not just the design, the planning, the design, but the construction project. The model and concept is basically where we start. We started with a concept that Brownsville Rivera, which technically housed the only indoor practice facility in the valley. That was a starting point that we went to. We did a tour there on site, as well as various other sites throughout Texas. I believe we were in Houston, and I think Houston primarily. So we took Brownsville Rivera. It's similar in nature to what we were trying to do. The Brownsville Rivera has a total square feet of 31,123 square feet. We want to call it's a typical standard facility, just being the fact that there were a lot of limitations to that design, as well as the overall construction project. Back in 2016, they constructed that facility at $96.39 a square foot. Back in 2016. Through all of the needs assessment and what the district was looking at realizing with this facility, the Brownsville facility is a 60-yard facility, limited markings, but the San Benito gave us and instructed us they really wanted a full multi-use practice facility. We reverted into an 80 to 90-yard practice unconditioned space practice facility. Really, the reason we went to that length was so that it could accommodate your marching band formations. So it's really suited not just for your athletic sports, but it does accommodate band and so forth. And we'll go further into it. But this is the general scope. Your building is 65,466 square feet. As you can see, more than twice the amount of the Brownsville Rivera facility. The cost, once we went into both GMPs, We got it at $81.70 a square feet, much lower than the Brownsville. And then the next page will go on a comparison. So if you look at that, those are 2020 dollars, 2019 dollars. The difference in the cost per square foot, we got it obviously a better deal at about a savings of about $961,695, and that's without construction inflation from 2016 to 2019. We really started in January of 2020, but 2019 we're doing the offsite utilities. On the indoor multi-use, these are the comparisons. And I would love to, if you'd like, I'd love to take you out to Brownsville to show you what they have versus what you ended up getting. Again, we do have a 90-yard artificial turf practice field with enhanced field markings to include football, an end zone, soccer, baseball, softball, and an expanded sideline runoff area. The Brownsville facility has a 60-yard facility, artificial turf as well, but it's only marked for football with no end zone and limited sidelines, runoff space. Your facility has 10 mechanical roll-up doors. Over there in Brownsville, they do the manual overhang. So literally it's like a garage door that opens inward and they have to manually open those doors. The problem with that, and that we looked at it, was a design defect in a sense because their eave height is shorter than ours. So those doors always came to play a role in kind of a modified use of the building. So we thought we'd improve the design by adding the roll-up option, and they're all mechanical. Again, and we got it cheaper in regards to price per square foot. We do have a field curtain divider. In your facility, they have no curtain divider. We do have drop nets for baseball and softball that come down from the ceiling downward. They have no drop netting. Catwalk for viewing and instruction, they have none. They have a mobile system that they bring in and roll around. The San Benito facility has 10,000 square feet of weight room that's conditioned space, and it's enhanced with floor logos in the weight room. They have a 5,000 square foot weight room facility, no floor logos in weight room. We do have a lobby and additional support rooms, an office, increased storage, and a sports medicine office there. They have no lobby, no additional support offices, and minimal storage. In our lobby, we do have multiple wall trophy cases. In the lobby, they have none. And we do have a storefront entry. That's all the glass that you see in the architectural metal on the front of the building. They have no storefront entry. This was the original, this is the site prior to us getting started. And so really when the site was selected, and it's a question that came up that why are we a little bit further on this side? As you can see, there's overhead power lines here. And so in order, we had to evade a lot of this, we shifted the building a little more further west. This is the beginning construction now taking us from the very beginning. This was the foundation work that was being done. A lot of the trenches that were dug out. This was a foundation for the conditioned space weight room and lobby area. That was the beginning stages of the construction. We poured more than 2,000 yards of concrete, prepared, poured, and finished for this respective project. All pouring happened, started at 3 a.m. and carried on to probably midday. Most of the pours are scheduled early on in the morning, gives the crews a chance to finish the pour, as well as all the required prep work and finish work they have to do. That's the beginning of when we started erecting the steel. All steel was delivered on site, and there's some images as we go into the structural phase of the project. There's an overhead, just to keep it into perspective, they installed not just, they installed 220 tons of structural steel that was prepped on site, erected, and installed. As you can see, we had cranes there for a while until they had all of this set in. This is a structural enclosure, metal paneling that was more than 84,000 square feet of roof and exterior wall paneling that was installed on this respective project. This is its current state right now. I just wanted to, again, kind of show you where we came from and where we're at this point in time. As you can see, we're pending some doors and some windows on the storefront. This is obviously the conditioned space area, as well as here's the unconditioned practice field as well. We still need some of the fencing that goes around here, some sidewalks, and then we are working on the plaza. That's the entry point. This faces the football field. It's particularly designed for the run out of your team. But if you look at it from the field, you can see that color paneling. This is shot was yesterday. This is your weight room. Brownsville has a suspended ceiling in theirs. This has more of an open. We didn't do a suspended ceiling. We had drop lighting in there, LED lighting. This is a compression flooring. As you can see, these are all the decal mats. There were 40 of them to accommodate your equipment, your weight room, weight equipment. This is the practice field. As you can see, the drop curtains are there. There's still some work that still needs to be done. This is not unfinished right here where you see the plywood. That's where all the padding is going to be installed. It's a total of 48,000 square feet practice area. It does have an eave heights, which is on the far end of 30 foot. The Brownsville Nevada is 25 foot. Makes a difference when you get to the peaks. And as this roof, where we have peaks of up to about 50 feet, which is considerably larger. And when you walk in there, this picture doesn't give it justice whatsoever. When you walk in there, you'll feel how big that thing is. Again, we got the roll-up doors. You can see they just roll up. Brownsville had that kind of pull-out kind of garage door, overhang door, and then they had big old fans that were hanging as well. So it was always, they recommend that we reconsider the design based on those issues. This is your lobby. There's 5,500 square feet of additional conditioned space in the lobby, office, storage room, bathrooms, mechanical rooms, sports medicine, and training room. This is the same. This is your training room on the left side. This is your bathrooms, or one of your bathrooms, the women's bathroom on the right-hand side. This is the plaza. This is the finish outs. We just got the construction trailer removed from the site. We needed to remove it. There are 3 options right now that we're working with PBK and the Hefner Group to kind of finish out what the front courtyard will look like. These are just 3 simple options. David can kind of elaborate as we get further in the question and answer phase. And I can always come back to any of these pictures, but we're working on different options for that plaza. Some pavers in the middle, and then we can do relatively anything. So it's not limited to these 3 options. We need to finalize in the next given week or 2 weeks so that we can start coordinate construction. Now, the Hellish Group did all the vertical construction related to the facility and some of the sidewalks. We felt that it would be a cost savings to the district if we worked with the district to kind of coordinate what's remaining in regards to the courtyard, some of the irrigation that's going to be needed for the grass, and the mulch that will be installed. This was a respective schedule since we started. I just wanted to throw it up there. These are a continuation, but in the next slide, I'll show you where we stand and how we're wrapping up. But this was the overall schedule. These are the closing items, milestones, and dates. As David was saying, we are at the closing period. There are the perimeter concrete sidewalks inside 2 weeks. Everything's relatively inside the 2-week period because we're there daily doing all these closeouts. The HVAC test and balancing, the mechanical closeouts. I talked about the fencing exterior, the HVAC units, the wrap up on the installation of the storefront, the fire alarm system, exterior signage. And then the last thing they do, and it's the field turf is the absolute last that's ever done on one of these types of facilities, as well as the wall padding. And so that we're slated to be done within the next 2 weeks. The next few days, they're going to start that installation process. We are scheduled for a building inspection February 2nd and a closeout February 2nd as well. Again, I listed the items. The additional items for scheduling is the plaza, sidewalks and pavers, as well as I said, the irrigation system and the hydro mulch. And we are pending a ribbon cutting date that will work with you and the superintendent to set that in and be ready to open that building. Well, we're on slide 25. This is where we're open for any questions. If any board members would like to ask any questions, again, David and I, as well as the rest of the team, is here available for any.
Mr. Palacios, my question was just, as far as you turning this over, are we on track, on schedule? I see that you provided us something, but it's really small for the page, the one that the copy I got.
So,
Are we a little bit ahead of time, or are we just right on time?
well, obviously 2021 was a very daunting year for everyone in every industry. We are a little bit off, and I would say, and there was a lot of interruption in regards to the suppliers. When COVID hit, everything shut down. The good news is that we had a hard line on the budget. When you get a guaranteed maximum price and it's adopted already, the risk is on the contractor. So it didn't affect us price-wise. However, supply-wise, on receiving the material in and scheduling that out, we're off a little bit. But ever since that was early on in the early months between March, all the way into probably into the summertime. Once the country started getting back, things had become readily available. So we're at the closing stages of it, of this project. But glad to say that, again, I did the price comparison to what Brownsville did and what we did here. One of the additions to the facility was the addition of that office, as well as an additional storage room. Originally, the lobby was a little bit bigger than most would have imagined. We thought we could maximize a little more space by having an office and an additional storage there on site. So overall, it's been a great project. It's as we're wrapping up, and once you start walking the facility, there's a deep appreciation. There's a lot of, I want to thank David and the PBK group. They really, when they're on the finish outs, they really got it right. There's a lot of spirit color in there. They tied in a lot when you walk into some of the other facilities. We've been through a few of them. They're just not as great as this one. Definitely a marquee project and something that I think is going to be a model for other districts to follow.
Thank you.
David, you want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
If I may ask a question.
Sure.
You put on there, you had a final inspection. Is that to get the COO at the end? Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, we're going to
get inspection.
Yes, ma'am. We're looking for a certificate of occupancy as soon as obviously substantial completion. We are at that stage. We've had the city doing all inspections. All inspections have passed. We've had them there. We've had them regularly there. One of the challenges, and I know Mr. Corona asked that question. So, and I don't know if you all are very aware, the city of San Benito, they don't have an in-house engineering department. They're very limited on their code enforcement. And so they outsource a lot of this review process, as well as their inspection. We've jumped up to the challenge and worked with them, with our inspectors. And we've provided all of the geotech reports and everything. So we've been working hand in hand with them. However, they're not like larger incorporated cities like, Brownsville, McAllen, where they have reputable staff that's there. So pretty much the date that they gave us, we were looking sooner, but they gave us that date. So we're working with that date. But those were some of the challenges along the way as well. And we're seeing that on the PAC and NAT and the civil as well. But again, they've been a good partner. This is not me saying it negatively, but with every construction project, there are challenges, and that just happens to be one. And we'll cover a couple of other ones as we're going further on some of the other projects. But yes, we're looking at the COA.
So are the inspections being sourced out to county, or are they assigning an actual code enforcer or inspector?
No county, it's inside the incorporated city. They have an outsourced
But you said that they're sourcing out. So I'm just wondering, were they sourcing out to county or are they sourcing, are you bringing someone in?
It's a private firm that they're outsourcing to.
Okay.
They're trying to do as much as they can do in-house. We're assisting them in that. And then all other reviews happen. They outsource it to a private firm.
Mhm.
I would just like to add, Mrs. Yanis, that this week the contractor started scheduling trainings with the San Benito maintenance staff for the HVAC system controls, etc. So there's several trainings scheduled throughout the week. And then as far as the design team, in regards to architecture, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, we begin to start punching the facility this Friday. Just going through and making observations and documenting, possibly any deficiencies that need to be addressed.
Sure. So who handles the punch list? Is that going to be we as board members, or are we looking at maintenance doing that? Who exactly does the punch list?
I'm not sure with the San Benito CISD who's going to be tasked with that, but each of the architects and our consultants will each develop their own individual punch list. As far as the owner, we can get with Mr. Perez to see who specifically with San Benito CISD will be responsible for that.
Year of warranty will be a year, or what are we looking at as far as after completion of the structure has been turned over, and what are we looking as far as guarantees within a certain amount of time?
So we have 1 year warranty as far as the GC for the building structure itself in general. We do have additional warranties for some of the equipment. They have, longer warranties as far as equipment goes and so forth. So all that documentation will be provided at the end for closeout. So we'll coordinate that with the district so they have that in hand. The turf itself, I believe, has an 8-year warranty, which is standard in the industry. For any items that need to be addressed or remedied.
Is that for structural? Is that for foundation? What exactly are we looking at when you're looking at the 1 year?
The 1 year would be the structure itself, the foundation, as far as any defects in regards to craftsmanship with the contractor. We will have the 1 year, and that year will start once we determine that the project is substantially complete. Certificate of occupancy has been issued by the city. Those items come into play in order to determine when that warranty period begins.
I see.
And the turf itself, as I mentioned, has an 8-year warranty, which is typical. That's typical for a turf that's outdoor. In this case, we're indoors, so we should have a long lifespan with the turf once installed.
Was that a steel roof? I don't remember. What was that?
Yes.
Steel roof?
Is
the steel, the steel, is that paper or foam that goes up there?
No, it's the building structure itself is a pre-engineered steel structure. And we do have the roofing insulation, which is, bad insulation, and it does have a vinyl face on it, and the vinyl is impact resistant. It's for this use for gymnasiums, because of balls and so forth. The building itself, the entire building throughout is insulated. Even the unconditioned space is insulated, even though it's not air conditioned. But we do know how the weather and how warm it gets in this region.
Exactly.
So,
but is that a paper that layers it right underneath that, or we're talking foam?
It's a vinyl membrane that protects the insulation.
Oh, I see.
The vinyl membrane.
And then windstorm certified, of course.
Yes, ma'am. You'll have the windstorm certification. That's required.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What's the total cost of this project?
5.7 million. And I can give you more specific. It's 5 million. I'm sorry, let me get my glasses real quick.
348,572.
Yeah. Yes.
Based on your square footage at 8170 at 65,466, about 5,348,572.20. Más o menos.
Yeah.
Mr. Palacios.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Orlando here. First and foremost, that's, first of all, I want to compliment you and PBK and the whole team on a great project. I know the board has been, and the previous board members that were here played a huge role in pushing for cost savings, but maximizing the amount of opportunity to provide our kids with some of the latest and greatest, resources out there for them to succeed at all levels when they represent San Benito CISD. So I just wanted to thank you so much for that. I know we've been extremely aggressive as far as making sure that we stay under budget, making sure that we are good stewards of the money that our community voted for this bond for. So I know your team has done a tremendous job. Of course, coming in at $81 a square foot is almost extremely unheard of, and we're extremely lucky. But more importantly, just to seeing this building and this vertical structure go up and seeing, talking to parents and how excited they are, at all levels, it's extremely amazing, man. And I just can't, thank everybody enough, from Dr. Carmen, your team, and everybody that was very supportive on this, as well as our constituents who voted for it. So,
Well,
thank you for that.
And I can tell you, if I can shed light on this, because this is probably the most important point, is when the board decided to procure by CMAR, which is a construction manager at risk, it is a lot more work for all parts, from not just the architect, but for the contractor as well. Early on, same building, the price, I want to say, I was going through some spreadsheets earlier, and it was at 6.8 million. And David, you remember those days? We went day in, day out, week in, week out, looking at value engineered items, going over and getting a final negotiated price, going back to the subs. We fought tooth and nail to get it at that price per square foot. And yes, it is unheard of. You'll find that all facilities throughout Texas, that we definitely have the lowest, but I'd like to say that we preserved to assure that we had the best in regards to the end product and the craftsmanship. So again, the thanks goes to PBK and even Hellas, who really wanted this project. I'm glad we didn't do design build. That would have been a nightmare if you look at the numbers. This thing would have been above 6.5, 6.8 mil. But I want to thank the board for trusting the construction manager at risk route. Again, it's a lot more, but it definitely proved in the savings and getting the best bang for your buck. But yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. And that was one of the biggest issues or concerns that we had, CMAR versus design build. And, it's very obvious we made the correct choice. But more importantly, it was wanting to stretch the dollar. And that's one thing that we've always done, since we started this whole project. So once again, I want to thank you for what you've done, and the rest of the team, Hellas and PBK. I want to thank you guys so much for your due diligence and always keeping the board abreast of what's going on every single step of the way. And I continue to look forward to working with you guys. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I may ask one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What I wanted to ask is in reference to upgrades and change orders. Were there any made?
Well, when you have a guaranteed maximum price, there's really the only change that could happen is change of scope. So I like to say that there was a lot of changes along the way, both positive and negative. However, at the end of the day, the district got the best bang for their buck, because not only did we stay within allowances, the additions that the district sought, very important to add the office as well as the storage room, and the cost associated with that is far less than what it would have cost to, because that's an additional conditioned space area. We were able to do it well within that, within the price that we had. So again, David, you want to run through some examples of savings? I mean, there was a lot of them along the way, alternatives that we looked at even during construction.
Correct. Yes, we looked at lowering the roof height of the weight room, and we looked at some of the materials. Once we were able to lock in the GMP, there were some items that came up, but we had contingencies built into the GMP, so we were able to work with that contingency money, so to avoid any actual change orders to the contract amount. So we were able to add additional office space, additional storage, which there's never really enough storage. The inlays for the logos in the weight room where the rack equipment will be installed. So just little touches in regards to the design that's going to separate San Benito CISD from any of the other districts in this region. for sure. So,
How much were the allowances?
We have about 11,000 in allowances savings right now on the marquee. It came under budget, which we're glad. We approached the district on a possibility of using their provider on the one that did the high school. We found that their price was higher, so we stuck to the bid that we ended up getting. So we did in fact have a credit allowance right now of about 11,000. So we did good on the allowances too.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may make a suggestion, I know that y'all are using a lot of little acronyms. I know that us as educators, if we were to use them with you, you probably wouldn't understand them. So I'm just gonna ask if y'all can word out whatever you're trying to say. Like right now, y'all said GMP, and I don't know what GMP is. Earlier, you had said CMAR. I didn't know what CMAR is, but then you clarified it later. So if you can please, take that into consideration, that a lot of us don't work into construction. So when you're talking, if you can explain some of those terms, please.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Glad to do that. Any other questions on the
Let
indoor?
me ask you, you mentioned earlier comparing other districts in the region. Are there any other districts that have a facility like this one
No.
nearby or in Texas?
Oh, in Texas, absolutely.
Yeah, in Texas, yes, but in this region 1 area, no. Just Brownsville Rivera. But in regards to this size of turf area and weight room, there is nothing comparable to what San Benito has with this indoor facility in this region. So, and we're grateful to be a part of it. So.
And I do have another question, because I had heard that the Bells had wanted to use this facility. Is that going to be open for them as well?
It's open for everyone. That building is suitable for anything and beyond the bells and beyond the band. I'm certain that there's a lot of instructional use that they can use that building for now that we're in this COVID era. You open up the doors, they're all mechanical. You can stretch classrooms out in that. There's unlimited uses for this facility, but yes, absolutely.
So the floors will be safe for them to practice.
Yeah, just no different than a field. I mean, absolutely.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we fought for so many, square feet.
Yes, sir.
Was to incorporate every single extracurricular activity to utilize this building. So it's not limited to anyone. I know there was rumors out there and people were running with it and using it sometimes, negatively. But when push comes to shove, that's exactly what we did. We said we were going to do it, and we did it. So it's 90 square feet. I mean, it's 90 yards, and it's for every single child that wants to use it. There's no limitations to it.
Well, the curtain divider was critical. So regardless of half of the field being used for one side, you can use the entirely other side for something that you'll have more of a control setting. So I applaud the board for keeping those elements in this project, even though we were looking for every dollar that we could to keep this cost down. But that stayed in. And so this facility can be used for all purposes. It is truly a multi-use facility.
And what is air conditioned? Is it the whole facility?
It is, and that's what we're referring to conditioned space. It's 15,000 square feet of that building, which is a lower part. Let me try to go back.
It would be the main entry lobby, the restrooms, offices, and the weight room. That's the bigger volume. And then everything beyond that, the practice field, it's not air conditioned, but it is insulated. So it's naturally ventilated.
So this is the only portion of the building that's not with an HVAC system.
Okay, and so what temperatures will the kids be experiencing in there in the summers if they're practicing in above 100 degrees weather? So how hot or how cool will it be in there?
I'm not sure specifically, but I mean, the insulation that's on the roof and being, an entirely covered space, naturally ventilated. I mean, it should temperature difference 10, 15 degrees, maybe even more, depending.
This will probably give you the, if you can see the screen and you see where the doors would be, they're all around the building. You got a dominant southwest wind. It's never still in South Texas. So you're going to get the natural southwest wind blowing through there. So you're going to have the natural air coming in there. We'll start gauging the temperature in there, but definitely a lot better than being in the elements with no cover, no insulation. And that's really why they're, why these facilities exist. It is to keep the kids in away from the elements when they need to be in the hottest part of the day and when there's adverse weather. That's particularly what these buildings are used for.
Okay, so when you say naturally ventilated, that means with air from the outside coming in through those doors.
Yes, sorry. Yes, I should have clarified. That's correct. That's why we have these big overhead doors around the building. They can all be open. They're controlled individually, electrically controlled with operators. So with a push of a button, they can be opened or closed. So they can govern which ones they want open, which ones they want closed, vice versa. So it gives them that opportunity. There are also vent grills. So if the doors are closed, the building is still naturally ventilating as well. Obviously, with the doors open, that's a bigger volume of air that would be able to flow through the building. But there are vents in there to, code wise to ventilate the building as needed with the doors being closed. So.
Now I will add, the building is preset to make it conditioned as well. That's why it's insulated. So if the district ever wants to revert to this field being conditioned, you can do that. Obviously, it's going to cost a lot of money to air condition 48,000 square feet. Wouldn't suggest it on the M&O side. It would drive up that bill. But at the end of the day, most of the facilities that we've been around, it's unconditioned space, the natural air. That's where they position the building is critical. So they're getting the natural air coming through there, keeping those temperatures down and keeping them away from the rain and the other elements.
At the same time, Mr. Palacios, just to be very clear, it's optional if they're going to use the facility on a daily basis or not. So
correct.
If our educators or our coaches feel at any given moment in time that it's too hot in there, then they can go outside. And that's the way, that's pretty much the way it's always been.
Oh,
I think go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I will challenge, we've been through these facilities in the peak of the heat. We were in the Brownsville system and it was very comfortable in the Brownsville one. Again, theirs was designed to take in the southwest wind. It's not hot in there. The district maximized the use of that facility. Matter of fact, all the other high schools are fighting the fact that Rivera has theirs just because of, it's worked for them. The majority of the ones we toured, they were non-conditioned. There were a few that were conditioned, but again, you have to pay for that. And at this point in time, we wanted to stay within budget. It's nothing that we advocated. It would definitely have taken us over. But it can be an addition for the future if the district decides to.
And the facilities that are conditioned that we've done in the past, they're 40 yard, 50 yard, maybe 60 yards max facilities. So this is exceeds 80 yards. So it's a big facility.
Thank you, Mr. Palacios. I guess you want to go ahead and continue with your presentation, sir.
Sounds good. Section 3 is the offsite civil crossing for the PAC-NAT. The GDJ engineers are the engineers of record for this respective project. What may seem to be a small project is not. There are 3 jurisdictional groups that oversee this area, TxDOT being one, Cameron County Irrigation District number 2, as well as Cameron County Drainage District number 3. They have all, there was a requirement for them to review the the design documents and the construction documents, as well as be involved in the permitting as well. This is just one sheet of many sheets that go along with it. But there are 3 elements to the project. It was an irrigation siphon, and I'll show you in the next slide what that is. the drainage crossing, as well as the roadway access that was part of this. This is a picture that kind of shows, if you can see, there's the irrigation ditch, supply ditch here. There's the drainage district drain ditch here. And obviously we're on the frontage of the expressway. So TxDOT is involved in every aspect of it. These are the permits. TxDOT issued a permit, an executed permit, as well as the irrigation and drainage district issued a permit. Did have an active review and concurrence with the city of San Benito. There's a lot of correspondence on that. Again, separating myth from fact, and I'm certain we'll get into Q&A on this one. The city has no jurisdiction whatsoever in this area. What they have is an easement for a water line that comes. It's a 20-inch water line that comes along this frontage. They're there by easement with the drainage district. They don't have any records of their lines. That's another challenge with the city. They're not a good depository of their records of their systems throughout, especially throughout this area. GDJ has been assisting them, as well as our group, to identify, make sure that we start identifying what's where. Let me go into the next slide. This is the project team. Oh, excuse me. Let me go back real quick. The project team for the offsite utility crossing, where there's project managers. GDJ is your engineer of record. Robert Kistner, Geotech Lab, anytime there's construction, and they're doing all the testing. You had two contractors. NM Contracting was charged with the duty to do the drainage and the roadway crossing. Science Brothers Utility Contractors did the irrigation siphon. These are images of the early phase of the project. The siphon, as you can see, has already been installed, the head walls and all. Siphon was completed by Science Brothers. And this is the beginning stages of NM's role in the project with their subs. Here are the box culverts that were installed, again, approved by the drainage district, inspected by them as well as all the geotech done by Robert Kistner. This is the backfilling of those box culverts, as you can see right here. This is another stage of that backfilling. This is the roadway crossing as they're prepping it. Again, the soils, challenging soils, everything's lime treated there, tested as well. This is the prep where they're setting in the rebar. It is a concrete crossing to handle all the heavy traffic, as well as provide longevity in regards to the end product. This is the water line that the city could not locate. Their surveyor and their public works guy believed that it was, I believe, about 5 feet closer to the fence line. The sub XM construction through NM nicked the line, as you know, and I know has been heavily publicized. There was a water line. Originally, they said they lost 1 million gallons, and then the city came in and said 30 million gallons. However, we don't have a storage tank that holds that much water. However, that day when XM subcontractors hit the water line, they controlled shut off. There was a controlled shut off near the water tower. It was stopped, and then work was done. Now, by request of the city, we did, the GDJ Engineering designed a steel casing. That is what you see on the right-hand side. That steel casing is a protective steel casing of the water line, the full extent of the crossing. It was placed, welded, and completed. That's the image. That was the pour, again, lime treated soil, geotested, installed all the rebar, concrete poured and finished. Those are images of the pour on the left, and that is the finish of the crossing. They're not completely done. They still need to do the head walls for the drainage. They are scheduling that now. It's probably inside of a 14-day period that they'll get that in place, wrapping up that segment. Section 4 is a site civil for the PAC and NAT GMP. This is just one sheet. Now, again, I'll explain. GMP is a guaranteed maximum price. Obviously, with 3 facilities, there always is, and you can't just build a building without offsite and onsite utility needs, which would be the water and sewer. This land that we started with was farmland, complete farmland, as you can see in the image. There are no utility lines in there. There's no subdivision. There's no plat. It's raw land that we started with, and it's contoured in a manner that serves the purpose of farming. So we had to start working again with our engineers to develop a site plan that would help access with access. These are the civil elements that we worked on in this respective scope that went out for bid. Offsite utility connections with the city sewer system. That sewer system is off Alamo Street. I don't know if you all have ever been by Alamo Street. I encourage you to go down there. There's a lift station on Alamo Street that the city needs to address structural damage. We did an assessment. The city asked us to work with GDJ Engineering to do an assessment. They did an assessment on it, which led us to some negotiations with them on what role the district would play and what the city would do. But anyway, let me go further. So also the construction access off 8th Street in the frontage. So we addressed the construction access right on this side. There's going to be 2 entrances and exits. The primary will be off the expressway. Secondary will be off 8th Street. Part of this project is the construction staging site, secure the site and site preparation. As you can see, that is in this color, darker color as you see. The construction site also called for drainage swells. We needed to put them in place so that we would have some runoff drainage while we were in construction. So if in fact we get into some adverse weather, they would assist drain the site so that we can continue and not be held back from construction. There was also the construction connection and access to the city water system. The connection is going to be at that point off the drainage easement, the easement that they have in the drainage right away. And they've delineated what that plan is on a plan. What it also called for was the excavation of the building site, pad site, and the installation of ground treatment system geopiers. Now I'll explain this. Where the buildings will sit, that is a construction pad site. That needs to be excavated and prepped, as well as because the soils are very challenging all throughout San Benito, specifically to this site as well. We have found an innovative way through, and I want to give all the accolades to Rob Kistner on a ground treatment system that would allow for us to install geopiers and not have to do long drill piers, a lot more steel and concrete. That work will be done prior to us doing some foundation and the vertical construction. Though that is in this element. It has already been bidded. It's part of this package that has already received a notice to proceed, and they're under construction at this point of time for all these elements. This is the project team, same team as the site civil. However, the contractors are different. So we do not have the same contractors that were working on the crossing or the drainage. The contractors, Davila Construction, their subcontractors by bid is Core Construction that will do the civil and utility scope, and Peterson Construction that will be doing the geopier installation. This is the initial project schedule that we started. I know it's small, but I will email you if you'd like a copy of this and upload. But we'll talk about these phases as we go through. One of the things I didn't advise you when I started, we do have every 2 weeks, we have a building update meeting with the district and the respective superintendent and extended staff facilities. And we go over where we stand and what to expect in the next 2 weeks. This is the first time we addressed the board this year, but we have no problem coming back to the board, to the building committee to offer the same respect and to share where we're at and what to expect in the oncoming weeks. As I said, they are already under construction. The bids of the procurement has already been done, contracts negotiated. These are images of the site clearing. The job trailer is set in place already. These images are some of the work that's been done. As you can see in the back, you can see the cement crossing was already done. This is the access to 8th Street. Again, the requirement that the city asks us for is that we lay in caliche rock. So that would help with the heavy traffic as we're accessing 8th Street. Now, we're not planning on using this as a primary entrance into the construction site because of 8th Street, and this is a residential area. It is a last option. Right now, it's a primary option, but as a crossing is already in place, Davila Construction is going to use that as a primary entrance off the expressway, and this being a secondary entrance. As you can see, it's gated, so the entire construction site is already a controlled site, and you'll see it in further in some images. This is the sewer utility pipe that's already been delivered on site, and they have a storage construction trailer out there. On the right side, this is, and I can't recall, Robert, how thick this was, but it was a very thick report. It's a traffic impact analysis that was required by the city of San Benito to address any influx of traffic that will be used once we're completed with the project and what this area will be experiencing at the intersection of 8th Street and and obviously the PACNAT site. This is just a cover page of that report that was delivered to the city for their review, and they've already done their review process. GDJ Engineering is working with the city to finalize what this area will look like. This is the drainage swells. As you can see, the fencings are it encompasses the entire project site. The drainage swells, they're wrapping up. They're almost completed with it. From here, they're reverting to access utilities and the pad site and staging area. Which leads us to the vertical projects. So without these buildings, again, in order for them to breathe life, all of these things need to be done. It's not just a vertical construction building. It is all the support facilities that need it, the water, utility, drainage, and access. In regards to the performing arts and the natatorium, this is your project team. Again, some of the same faces in us, Davila Construction, GDJ, and Engineering. Again, these aren't your typical school buildings. These are highly complex buildings. It's a performing arts and a natatorium. Again, specialized buildings, and required the Red ROFA group to bring in their team. These are their team members. They're represented pool consultant, as well as all the structural, MEP, theatrical planners, acoustical consultants. This is the complete team. They are the best of the best. We did a tour with the board members up in Houston. We toured a lot of facilities, and I think it was a major eye opener for some of the board members that joined us on how complex these buildings really are. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Alex. I know your IT representative is going to give them access to share screen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then Mike Alex will take you through a few slides, and then I'll wrap up on some points that will be discussed as we close this up. So Mike, it's all yours.
Hey, Joseph, before you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Palacios, before you continue, I want to go ahead and thank you so much for clarifying the whole situation with the crossing.
Yes, sir.
I know there was a lot of, I know there was a lot of negativity and misled information out in the community, for weeks. But I want to go ahead and thank you so much for clarifying that. There was no cost to the district. The company that made that unforced, error or whatever, went ahead and forked the bill. So they went ahead and took care of that. So there was a lot of misinformation out there, but I want to just thank you so much for clarifying that, because that's very important. So,
And it's not just me echoing this. Every consultant on this meeting knows the challenges that we're having in San Benito. Again, I don't know how to echo this more, but they do. Again, the city is not a great. They don't have a big depository of their lines. GDJ did all that we could to assist the contractor on locating. Matter of fact, they had Public Works representatives on site the day that they hit the line. So yeah, there was a lot of misconception out there in the general public. It did not cost the district a penny. Liability being the fact that we did get a firm price. Liability is on the subcontractor. All the negotiations happened with the city. It's been resolved. I want to even add, this is where I will give kudos to the city of San Benito. Now, speaking of the lift station for the PAC and the NAT, the lift station, it's your community. Take a look at 8th Street. That lift station has structural issues. The district, as a favor to the city, did a full outright assessment of that lift station. The city has agreed, and in the initial budgets, we were looking at about $500,000 of having, because we're building new buildings, it's a requirement, and it could have been a requirement that the city asked for participation from the school district to flip the bill on the new lift station. Thank you, Dr. Carmen, and various board members that were party to the negotiations meeting with the city of San Benito, and the city of San Benito has agreed to address the full cost of that lift station. So it reduced the cost of the offsite utilities that we were required to address. It's helped us build that gap of savings, and it's led to a good partnership with the city of San Benito. Bernard Rodriguez, they're great employees. They're trying hard to work with us, and I want to commend them on that. And they did work with us on that part. So I mean no disrespect when I say they don't have a lot of, it's just a fact. I'd rather tell you the fact that that's what has forced us to really do a lot of investigative work to help them, so that we could help our designers, help our contractors, and everybody else assure that we're not having to spend another dollar than we have to. But anyway, but thank you for that. Mike, I know they're going to give you access to the shared screen. Do you have that access yet?
Let me know if you can see the image that I'm sharing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it.
Okay, can everyone?
Yes, sir.
I can see it too.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Very good. Okay, well then I'll get started. Thank you very much for your time and your efforts as we've put this project together. It's taken nearly a year to get to the point where we're at right now, and we're very close to completing the construction documents phase, and we're now in the process of finishing up the remainder of the pricing for the project. But just I wanted to give you a few project parameters, just so for the newbies, so to speak, on the board, and let y'all know what's going on with the size and the capacities for this project. We're working with about 21.5 acres of land, as Joseph has mentioned, you know where the site is. It's right underneath Freddie Fender Tower, right off the expressway. The parking lot, as we've designed it right now, is close to 400 parking spaces. We have a performing arts center that has 2 levels. The first floor is about 49,000 square feet, and the second level is a little more than 16,000 square feet, for a total of about 66,000 square feet of total usable space for the project. It has a seating count on the first level of about 722 seats, and a balcony level of nearly 300, for a total of 1,019, and that's without handicap calculations. The audience chamber is configured to have seats that are movable and removable for the handicap sections that are peppered throughout the floor plan. And so we can pull 3 seats out and bring 2 handicap seats in. So even if we brought in a great deal of handicap seats, you'd still have 1,000 seats in the auditorium. So that's where there's a little bit more than 1,000 there. The benchmark we've had is 1,000 square feet since that's 1,000 seats since the beginning. On the natatorium side, we're looking at 20,400 square feet of space, the pool itself. It is an 8-lane competition pool. That's 105 feet by 90 feet, which is the 25 feet pool, 25 yard pool, excuse me, with a 2 meter diving, with two 1 meter diving boards. There is also an alternate price for a warm water program pool. And we'll talk a little bit about those particulars as we move through. Here is the site plan. I'll zoom in just a little bit tighter just so you can see it a little bit better. This block right here is the Performing Arts Center. This block right here is the natatorium. They're joined together by a common courtyard, an outside courtyard. And there's also canopies that connect them. And I'll show you those images in a few minutes that connect the 2 buildings so that they're accessible from either or building. It was, as was mentioned earlier, as was mentioned earlier, you can see this purple dot. This is the access point into the site off the frontage road. And then this is the access point off of 7th Street so that traffic can flow through here, in and out in any direction, and provide quick and easy exiting and entrancing into the site. The parking lot kind of wraps around 180 degrees around both buildings. There's some parking in the back, and there's also bus parking in the rear as well. Here is, let me zoom out just a little bit to give you the complete picture. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me correct that just a second. Everything is kind of color coded here to give you an indication of the first floor lobby. The entrances are here on either side of this large curvilinear space. And so from here, you will enter into a large and gracious lobby space that has a grand stair that gets you up to the mezzanine and or balcony seating that's above. The floor plan is rather simple in that the gray area represents this looping corridor that surrounds the audience chamber and the stage. On one side of the building, there is administrative offices and the support for the entire facility, including a maintenance shop, mechanical rooms, wardrobe, a scene shop. And then as we move around the corner in this clockwise manner, there's a reception area, receiving area for all of the scene trucks that would come in here to bring scenes in. This is a loading ramp so that you know, product for the stage can easily be moved in and out. Stage material and or equipment can easily be moved out in and out of this back area. Down this circulation spine is where all of the dressing rooms and support facilities, we call this back of house. This is the back of house for the entire auditorium. It includes dressing rooms, a lounge and lockers, instrument storage. There's just some large general storage. As was mentioned earlier, you can never have enough storage, and they'll use every bit, the kids will use every bit of this storage. And directly, I'll zoom in just a little bit tighter so you can see a little bit closer. This white rectangle represents the stage itself. There is a little bit of a thrust that comes out here. But you can see that behind the stage is also additional storage for pianos. The shell, the orchestra shell also is shown here. You can see it lined in black here with black ink. You can kind of see the orchestra shell as it lays out there in smaller performances. There's an amplification system room that's here as well. Moving on back up this hallway, there are 2 flex rooms. These would be used for dance and rehearsal and warm up, so that students could warm up here and perhaps even perform here and move back and forth from the stage and into these. These are going to be really key when you have UIL competition, where you have 2 or 3 bands or performances going on over the course of a day, and you need to have these ensembles move in and out of the stage area into other quiet spaces where they can practice. Restrooms are here in this corner, and it's also important to note that this back of house, so to speak, is isolated from the more public spaces. There's a pair of double doors here and a pair of double doors there that keep people in the lobby space moving in and out of the audience chamber, but not necessarily back into these other areas unless they're given permission to do so. The second level is mostly made up of the balcony, and you can see a balcony rail out here that looks down onto the lobby space. It's a 2-story volume of space, very dynamic space. I'll show you some of those images in a minute, and then you'll also see the grand stair, or the monumental stair that gets you up to this level. You can access these seats from these 2 vestibules. There's one here and there's one here. They have double doors just as all the others, so that you can isolate sound. There's also an elevator here that goes up and down between the 2 levels for those that need that additional help getting up and down the stairs. There's also restrooms up here as well, so that you don't have to go up and down the stairs to get to the restroom facilities. This is a front elevation of the building if you haven't seen it. And we put this in here mostly in black and white just to show you the primary design concepts that are holding these 2 buildings together. As you know, these buildings have completely different performance characteristics. They have completely different programs, and we thought long and hard about what do they really have in common besides being school district buildings. And the one thing that we do find that they do have in common is this concept of a wave of sound for performance, a wave of water in the natatorium. And so we've amplified that wave in a series of waves in the architecture. And that architectural wave happens here, and it happens here and goes over the canopy that connects the 2 buildings, and then continues on a wave as another canopy on the natatorium building. So I wanted to show you all that just so you kind of understood the concepts, that we just didn't throw a couple of curves together and say, look at that pretty building. There was actually some deeper thought process and about how we connect the buildings in a symbolic way too. And so here's the front elevation of the building, looking from the parking lot at the Performing Arts Center. And you can see this wave as it carves through the architecture and then continues on as a canopy towards the natatorium. You'll also note too that there are segments and connections that you see in the glass itself, in the storefront glass. These are actually notes that you would see as you would read sheet music. So there's another symbolic measure behind all that too. This is an interior, so you kind of see the dynamics in the space. And this is the lobby, and I'm actually sitting at the landing. In this image, we're standing at the landing at the top of the stairs, looking down into the lobby space. And this is up here. This is the rail looking down from the second floor portion of the building. Here's an interior. Again, spirit is a powerful metaphor too that we're using. So there's a lot of the school colors, district colors in the architecture. What you're seeing here is up at the balcony. You're in one of the back seats in the balcony to show you that there's really not a bad seat in the house. Sight lines were very well thought of, and we thought long and hard about how we would create these spaces so that everyone had a good seat in the auditorium. This is one of the back seats in the auditorium, up high in the balcony. Now this is a back seat at the ground level. And so it too has a fantastic sight line, so that as of course the stage is elevated. So it really helps give everyone a view to the stage. Before I go to the Nat, I'd love to open it up. Any questions on the PAC, the Performing Arts Center? Did y'all have any questions or thoughts or comments?
I think that was creative, to tie it in with the wave, how you all came up with that theme and using the San Benito colors. I think that's good also. It kind of reminded me of the one that's in the UTRGV area. Is it similar to that one? The hallways reminded me of it, but the one that's by the Resaca, a UTRGV, TSC?
Yes, that's the same architect. Studio Red is our specialty architect, and they also designed that facility. And so that's where you'll see some of that similarity. Theirs is more of a conical shell, where ours is more of just curvilinear forms, but you can kind of see the similarities, yes.
And how much is this building costing the taxpayers?
Well,
I'll cover that in the latter slide, Mike, if we just take budgets a little bit later into the Q&A.
Very good. Any other questions on the Performing Arts Center? I'm happy to answer them.
Was there a revision on the seats?
No, we got more. Actually, there was an addition. There was an addition.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I'm sorry. There's an addition. Mike, you want to cover that? And we got the addition based on the reconforming the balcony. It's always been a goal to have 1,000 seats. Mike, you want to take it from here?
It has been a goal to have 1,000 seats, and 800 más o menos in the audience chamber at the first level, and then another 200 or so in the balcony. What we have done recently, though, is that we had a little bit more seats than 1,000, very close to 1,000, but a little bit more than 1,000, because we did not have these middle aisles up at the balcony. And we thought, and I think everyone has agreed, that it is much more desirable to have this kind of situation where you can flow in and out of these seats a little bit better, rather than have an entire row of seats and a center aisle or no aisle at all. So this is much more workable, and it eliminates a lot of disruption that could happen during a performance. But the only other change that we've made that I can think of is just in the most recent times, maybe in the last month or so, the addition of these two intermediate aisles to create better circulation around in the balcony. And we really didn't lose any seats. We lost maybe 2. So we thought that it was a really good move.
If I could add, Mike, going back, I guess I'll get it when you go back to the overall floor plan.
Sure.
Hey, Mike, I got a comment. This is Orlando. I just wanted to, once again, thank you guys so much. I mean, I know when we first started, everybody had visions of what they wanted and what they needed. And of course, we wanted to stretch the dollar once again and maximize, that bond money. But one thing that you guys have stayed steadfast on the fact is that, maximizing the seating capacity in there. And I just want to thank you guys so much for being creative. I want to thank the architects as well. I think they've done a tremendous job, with the resources available. And I think you guys have done a great job with that. And seeing it from when it started to now, I just want to thank you guys so much for that, because it's awesome to see this transition and this develop into an awesome facility for our kids and our community. I want to thank you for that, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Lopez, initially, what was the seating supposed to have been that we had said when they first, when the bond issue was coming out? Wasn't it a little bit more seating?
Well,
or am I incorrect?
No, that's incorrect, Ms. Yanis. I think one of the things was, everybody had opinions of what they wanted, but then once you put pencil on paper and you come up with the finances and how much it cost, then that's where everything had to we have to be realistic, and so that's where I think at one time, I don't know, there was dialogue that they wanted 1,200, 1,300, and then it came back to 1,000. So I think there was never an exact amount, because I mean, how can we throw numbers out there without having without having somebody in the construction side or the architects develop a plan? So I think it was just all dialogue. But I think one thing they've done is we really steadfast on the 1,000 once the bond passed and once all this stuff went to fruition. We really sat there and pushed for the 1,000 seats. So they were going to do everything they could to stay under budget, of course, and really not compromise the resources inside of the facility for additional seats. So we still state of the art. It's a great stage, and it has all the amenities that are required, for a great, awesome performing arts center, and not lose any quality.
So then you're saying that the taxpayers never received an amount of seats that the building would have when it was presented to them, the bond project?
If I could interject real quickly, you may be referencing our discussions about having a facility large enough to be able to accommodate our convocation, so our nearly 1,700 employees. And what this facility allows us to do is the 1,000 or so seats in the main area. But the 2 flex spaces, we have additional room to be able to set up for events like convocation, or if we have inclement weather and we have to hold graduation, that will give us hundreds of extra chairs for seating in those 2 rooms where they'll be able to watch. It'll be via video, and the sound, of course, piped in. But so this facility overall, using those flex spaces, will accommodate our larger events like convocation. And I think that's the larger number we talked about, 1,600 or so.
I believe so.
See that many, yeah. So if you count, like I said, the overflow or the flex spaces, it will meet that requirement. But in the main chamber, I think 1,000, once the debate went back and forth between whether we're going to do a true performing arts center or the multi-purpose that had the flat floor.
Yeah.
We went back and forth on that. And I think with this, we've made kind of the best of both worlds, where we'll have a performing arts center with that 1,000 seats, but with the overflow seating in the flex areas, we can accommodate for our larger events.
Right, and also, Doc, the majority of the people that voted for this bond, trust me, they're extremely excited of what they're seeing. So nobody was misled. There's 3 new facilities, state-of-the-art facilities, and that's where the bond money is going. We're being very transparent, and this is what it is. So you know what? Once again, I want to thank you guys so much for putting this on paper and seeing it come to fruition right now. It's just amazing, and I think it's going to be great for our community once again that long for this, as well as our students and our staff. Thank you.
So are the people that sit in the flex areas, are they going to be able to see the performance? Like how are they going to be able to see the performance if you have the band performing or something? Would it be through televisions, or how's that going to work out?
Right. So again, those spaces would be used for things like convocation and graduation. We would not open those. Very unlikely we'd open those for for any type of theater or our band performances. And so, yes, if we're doing convocation, we would have the video screens or drop-down screens, and then audio in those rooms so that the people who are seated there could still see and hear what's going on. But as far as for our performing arts, our fine arts performances, I think at least currently we'd be hard pressed to have more than 1,000 people in there, but we will use just areas, 1,000 seating.
So Mike, if I could intercede, the purpose of me going back to this floor plan was, so when we first got started, every consultant came down and we did an intake with your users. So this wasn't driven by consultant. We met with band, orchestra, every one of your users in your district. When we consolidated all of the max performances for all of the performances that the district has had, the largest was under 800. And those were the larger performing band deals. Mike, do you recall? So we, you know, at the end of the day, the design kind of exceeded your current use at this point of time. I know convocation was a big deal, but the cost when we break it down, and we'll talk a little bit about that. What you see in purple, every seat and the cost in this area is far greater than the cost of any space in the flex room. Our goal was to maximize the auditorium, but at the same time assure that you had more than performing arts, but you also had the opportunity to host other types of venues, other types of meetings, and so that's what these flex spaces add for. The reception area, all other performing arts that we've gone to, they utilize the reception area for various galas and different uses. The university uses theirs differently as well. And Mike, can you expand on that? Because it'll make sense, a lot of sense on why we ended up where we're at.
Yeah, I think what all of y'all are hitting on is the dilemma that most school districts go through when they're talking about building a brand new performing arts center. Is this building going to be an auditorium, or is it going to be a fine arts facility? And so the question was asked quite a bit with the end users, and it was determined that this really needed to focus on the fine arts, on the performing arts of the facility. And then you start thinking about, well, okay, the competitive component that goes into that as well, and how's it going to function when you have other schools come and participate. And so that's where these flex spaces come in during those kinds of situations where you could move students around and perform at different times on the stage, but still be able to practice and do other things and congregate in the flex spaces. And if you go and look at the other facilities across the valley, 1,000 seats is very special. You know, I think your neighbors in Harlingen, my alma mater, have something quite different, and it's smaller than that. So, you know, you're going to have a larger facility by about 200 seats. So this became the sweet spot, 1,000 seats in the auditorium to maximize the acoustics for the fine arts that you're going to be using, and not having a flat floor where you don't lose sight lines and those kinds of things. You can squeeze more seats in a flat floor because there's less, you know, obstacles to deal with on the floor. But do you get the same kind of characteristics that you would normally find in a performing arts facility? Well, you don't. And so these were the compromises that were made. I think you're going to really enjoy the fact that you have 1,000 seats, and you're going to enjoy that you have 200 that are up higher too, because what that does is that reduces the bowling alley effect. It's not so long and narrow where you can't see from longer distances. When you put another 200 seats in the balcony above the parterre, which is the very back portion of the audience chamber, when you have two volumes of space, you create fantastic acoustics and greater and shorter distances to the stage for the observers.
Thank you, Mike.
So, any other questions on the Performing Arts Center? If not, I'll move to the Natatorium. I'll do a little annotation here just so you can kind of see. This is an entrance, and this is an entrance. And give you some bearings. The parking lot is at the top of the page. The back is at the bottom of the page. And the canopy that connects that you saw on the renderings is right here, right where this purple dot is going back and forth. And so students can access the Performing Arts Center in either direction, back and forth to the Natatorium. And in the middle is this courtyard space. And then if you are parked out here where my purple dot is, then you would use this entrance here, which is really where the lobby is. And I'll just walk you around the site just so you can kind of see it a little bit better. We have a lobby and a front control desk. There is a family restroom here, just in the event that someone needs to go to the restroom within the lobby space. And then through these controlled doors, there's also restroom facilities here too, by the way. But once you go beyond these controlled doors, you are in the Natatorium space. And so from there, you have these two pools. You have a 8-lane swimming pool with the 1-meter diving boards. You'll see here that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 overhead doors. The prevailing breeze from the southeast, which is if you live in the valley long enough, you know the wind blows from the southeast about 90% of the year, and that's where you get most of your cooling, is right here. And so the cooling effects of our prevailing breeze come through these windows, these overhead doors, and cool the pool. And then they exhaust out here, right? So this whole area around the pool is the deck. And you will see that there's 8 lanes and a handicap lift to get you into the pool if you happen to be handicapped. There's also a portable riser for events where they can have meets and things of that nature. But this is not primarily a competition pool. This is a practice pool. And so there's also a secondary entrance right here. And this is an important concept that you see in a lot of these types of pools that students use. And that is they're coming in and out of the water wet or dry, and you try to have the wet areas isolated from the dry areas. And so the students will normally use this entrance to come in and out and go into their respective locker rooms and then come out and swim. And then they'll go back to their locker rooms, and then usually they'll exit here, or if they don't have, it doesn't matter if they're wet beyond this point because they're going to the outside. So that's one concept that's part and parcel to the design of these spaces. There's a coach's office, and then this green area really is all of the mechanical and outdoor equipment that has to go into these pools to make them work and filter correctly. It's important to note that the warm water pool is an alternate in this package, meaning that if the price is right, you all have the opportunity to elect to build this portion of the project. And that is a warm water pool area that is used for water aerobics. It's also used for, this is where I think the district endeavors to teach the smaller students how to swim. It also has a handicap accessible ramp to get into the pool, which is much more dignified than using the handicap lift. You can actually wheel your wheelchair all the way into the pool, making it a lot easier to get in and out if you happen to be disabled. And that's about it. I'll show you a couple of the interior and exterior images that we've have in here. This is from the warm water pool, and you can see that beyond this is the competition pool, and you can see the ramp in the foreground to get into the pool. Sorry, I went too fast. Here's a vantage point of the starting blocks, and directly on the immediate left-hand side, you can see the diving board, and you're looking from the deep water end of the pool towards the shallow water end of the pool. The entrance from the lobby is right here, if you can see my cursor. And then beyond these walls and these openings is the warm water pool. And this is the lobby here. And we've done some fanciful things with the ceiling that mirror some of the curved and waved elements that we have in the architecture. And there's another vantage point. This is the vantage point you would see from the expressway. We'd be a little bit higher if you're on the expressway, but this is what everyone will see as they drive in a southeasterly direction to the island or Brownsville. So this is putting its best face forward off the expressway. Do y'all have any questions on the natatorium? I could go back to that if you'd like me to.
I have a question, Mike. On the, we're gonna have cameras, security cameras installed on the places just in case, God forbid, something happens or whatever. We have everything, covered and, on camera. Are they gonna be installing also the cameras, security cameras?
Yes, there will be security cameras and card reader access control throughout both buildings.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Lopez, you're muted.
Thank you. Dr. Carmen, I have a question. Who will be maintaining these buildings? Do we have a budget for those employees that will be maintaining, or are you going to be using some of the same employees or hiring new employees? Because I was thinking, like, who would maintain the swimming pools? Like, who's trained, or is there going to be training on that? Or if you can explain that a little bit, please.
Certainly, yeah, we will have to add positions to take care of these facilities. Primarily, the natatorium is a very specialized area. We want to make sure we take care of that pool, so we'll have it for years to use. Those are not budgeted right now, but we have 2 years to work that into our budget, I think, probably before we actually get to use these facilities. And so, yes, those new positions will have to be built into future budgets.
Do you know how many staff members it would take to maintain these?
I could estimate, Mike, I think your pool specialist and theater specialist had some ideas, but I think minimally you need one person to take care of the pool, whether that's full-time or they can do another duty. Custodial staff, since it's not used very often, you probably don't need a large staff over there. maybe one full-time person, and bring people over when we have events. I think we had discussed, nothing has been decided, but I know we had discussed the possibility of adding in a fine arts director and housing them over there at the Performing Arts Center. So that person could then schedule the use of that building, make sure that when events are held, everything is scheduled and taken care of. And then as we add swimming and diving, we're gonna want someone who can coach. And whether they're full-time or part-time, whether the coaches also do our lessons for our second graders, we need someone to be able to provide those lessons for our kids.
And who will be managing the schedule for the other building, for the practice building?
So the multipurpose facility will be, it's on the high school campus. The athletic director and principal will schedule its use, just like they do right now with our gymnasiums or our practice field or football field. They will schedule the use of that building.
Okay, because we do have sports that overlap, right?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Mhm.
They've made it work with our sports, with our bell, our cheer, without that indoor facility. So I think just adding that much square footage under a roof will make things easier for them as they're scheduling, especially when there is inclement weather. But when there's not, I would anticipate that, like, our football team, for the most part, will want to be out on the field like they are right now anyhow. So it just gives us extra space to be able to schedule all of our different teams to be able to use that area.
And who's going to be using these two buildings, the PAC and the NAT?
So there will not be a full-time use of the Performing Arts Center like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday during the school day. We won't have classes over there because they are off-site. This will be for when we have performances, for when we host events, obviously practices leading up to, like theater arts or band. They'll be over there for days leading up to those events, but it will not be used on a daily basis. The Natatorium, we intend to schedule second graders to go over there on a rotating schedule from each of our campuses so they can take some introductory swim lessons.
Second graders, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Carmen, because I was going to ask about that. That's still on the plans. I think it's a wonderful idea. Like everything else, the Performing Arts Center and the Natatorium are beautiful facilities and so forth. My question had always been and that Minister Palacios that might need to answer this. Had always been like everybody else, you know, when you're trying to build a home, you come in with I don't know, 4,000 square feet or two, let's just be more realistic, 2,500 square feet, but yet you want to pay only $120,000 for it, which isn't realistic, you know, based on square footage. But my question is, we all wanted it there, and I know that to me, it was a nice location to have it. But my question is, what flood zone is it in? And if we had to raise the elevation on that, what were some of the obstacles that we were facing? Because sometimes we want something, but doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be that way. That we were given some type of counseling or some type of advice as to, was that a good location to build? Because it seems like we've had a couple of snags along the way, and I don't know if that's based because of where it was going to be located. Even though I think that was a beautiful location, but sometimes what we want and what's really is supposed to be isn't the way it is. Could you elaborate on that, Mr. Palacios?
Well, it'll be a few of us elaborating because of the mere fact that the location is a beautiful location.
Absolutely.
The adverse is the challenges regarding of a platted, maybe more prepared site as opposed to an agricultural field. Always has challenges. The indoor did not have that, obviously. However, in regards to two facilities and taking the benefit of the cost savings going under construction on both sites with one contractor led to more savings. The only challenge is there is no flood zone issue there. The issues that you have there are similar that you're going to have everywhere else in San Benito. Is the fact that the composition of the soils in San Benito aren't very good. That is why on 8th Street and some of the other locations, you see failed roads. You see a lot of this all along, and it's not San Benito's fault. It just geographically, every site's going to have its challenges. In regards to access and all of that, again, we took the challenge. We found that the benefits of keeping them together on a larger track lended itself to higher visibility, better access in regards to programming. And at the end of the day, some of the challenges that we have overcome them by finding alternatives in regards to like the soils. Isidoro is on there and he's our geotech. And he plainly will tell you just there and all through that area, there are going to be these challenges regarding soil. However, just like in cities of Houston and New Orleans and all of these other cities that are building big facilities in challenging sites, there are alternatives that lends itself to, I want to say some alternative that won't drive the price up, but will remedy the challenge. And I know that you probably still have more questions. I may have not answered it fully, and Robert's there. And
I guess what I'm asking is, what I'm asking is, what zone is it currently at? Because you are emphasizing that it was in an irrigation, it was field and so forth. And I'm just concerned, and rather, did we lift the elevation? I mean, has it been elevated? Did we have to fill in 21 acres of, 2-3 feet? I mean, what were you looking at? And that's what I call challenging in the fact that it needed more than what we thought. And maybe the location wasn't the greatest location. And then you're talking about soil. Are we talking like what, clay? What are we looking at as far as soil is concerned?
Loose and Isidoro is there. Isidoro, you want to take a run at the soil type?
Yes, Ms. Janice. Good afternoon, everybody. Isidoro Arjona. I'm with Raba Kisner Consultants. I'm the engineer responsible for our valley operations. This, from a geotechnical standpoint, this site is very challenging. We have a combination of expansive clay soils, but those soils are also in a soft or loose condition. So we have the potential for both expansive soils with the shrinking and swelling of those clays when they get wet or dry, but also the potential for settlement, especially with the larger building, like the performing arts, because those are heavy loads. In addition to that, we have a relatively shallow groundwater level on site. So the combination of these challenges initially prompted us to recommend drilled piers, deep foundations to support the buildings. But that, I understand, was driving the cost significantly higher than originally budgeted. So we presented to the team the option of a ground improvement procedure, basically a system called geopiers, which are similar to concrete piers, but these are made of stone. And they're put at sufficiently close intervals throughout the footprints of the buildings to densify the soils and then allow for the buildings to be constructed on shallow foundations. That will resolve the issue of settlement. The issue of the expansive clays requires some over-excavation and selective replacement of the soils underneath the footprints of the building. So that was also incorporated too. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
So what elevation is it at this time? You said there was an excavation and all that kind of stuff. Where is it? Where are we at as far as the zone? Are we on a C, on an X? What exactly are we on?
Okay, I think that's a different question, Ms. Janice. And I think the civil engineer, Robert, can better answer because that relates to the finished floor elevation. The recommendation of over-excavation from our standpoint is simply to reduce the potential vertical movement from the finished floor elevation. But as far as the flooding zone or flooding risk, Robert, I think you can better answer that.
Sure. So this site I believe is a zone 8, and I will confirm that. But the site itself actually lends really well to drainage. The natural contours flow towards the frontage, and then we have a built-in outfall right on the site. We have a drainage ditch that's right on the site. So that's a lot of projects you have to build, you know, thousands of feet of drainage outfalls. We have a drainage system that is literally fronting the property. So we have a site that's on a drainage. I know we've been talking about the soil concerns, but as far as a drainage part, the site is actually very well ready and set up for drainage. And I have here.
So we're in an A, is what you're saying. AH, A, and an A zone. So this is something that's going to require flood insurance?
Let's see here. Trying to see if I can pull up.
If I could jump into,
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say that we have elevated our buildings several feet above the existing finished floor. I think it's close to 3 feet or more. You're kind of catching us off guard because we don't have the plans in front of us, but
I'm sorry, yeah.
But,
is it 3 feet elevated up on the 21 acres, or is it just on the actual structure itself?
it is the buildings and the immediate surrounding areas and the spaces between the buildings that is elevated, and then there's a gradual fall back to finished grade or existing grade, some distance beyond. I don't know. It just depends on really where the outfall is. But one of the things we wanted to make sure is that we were not any lower than the existing elementary school. So we're, I think, slightly higher than the existing elementary school too. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but yes, we were concerned about the zone in which it was, and we've elevated the building accordingly.
Right. I'm just talking about long-term maintenance and insurance that we might have to buy on the long run. That's why I said, is it something that we were advised? Were we advised ahead of time? Because sometimes you can want something, and I understand that. I know, because I deal with that. And sometimes buyers come in thinking that they can build with 120 a castle. Well, it's not going to be that way. So what I guess I'm asking is was this a right location? Because I love the location. Don't get me wrong. I love the location. I love the structure, and I love everything about it. I really do. But the fact is that what type of maintenance and what type of cost is it going to be afterwards? A long-term cost. That's what I'm looking at. And was it the right location to be doing it? Is it something that we should have been doing at that location? Maybe we were supposed to have been told no. I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking.
Well, to answer your question, you wouldn't know until we probed this site. You wouldn't know until geotechnical was hired. You wouldn't have known until architectural looked at it, engineering. So we're taking the variables that we've been given, and we're maximize the solutions that we have to make sure that there aren't cost overruns. And I'll give you an example. The introduction of GeoPierce saved us $2 million on not having to do hundreds of drill beams. $2 million. The fact that we're having 21 acres and plus, and that we can sheet flow the water, and as long as we have the finished floor elevation higher, that naturally sheet flow water is going to go straight to our swells and have a direct outfall. So there are savings there as well. So we took our negatives and we got our positives, and we made sure that there was a wash, or we sat higher than the negative that we were presented. And just like construction, any construction, house construction, commercial, industrial, governmental, there are always underlying issues. The good thing is that we have a good load of professionals that have in their toolbox a lot of these different solutions that lends itself to remedying some of these challenges. So to answer your question, I think the site's a beautiful site. I think there are the challenges, just like any other site. We've remedied all of them, and it's going to be a beautiful site.
Agree. It is a beautiful structure. Anything that's new is always beautiful, and it's a beautiful design. I'd have to say that. So.
Yes, and I think it's a beautiful area too, as well, very accessible to the public. And I had the same question. I mean, because when you're going to buy a house, you have to pay someone to go and inspect the land before you buy it, because you want to make sure that there's no problems with the land. And so I had that question too. So then you're saying that you all came up with a plan, but not you couldn't know if you were going to have problems or not at that point.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you all sold the bond, elected the site. We didn't elect the site. We were given the site. We looked at it, and after being hired with all the respective professionals, we looked at everything. We ran every test that we could to identify all variables, to assure that we have a plan to address those variables, and make sure that we overcome those variables to assure we stay within budget. And we have exceeded that. Yes, there were challenges just like anywhere else. However, we've addressed every one of those challenges and found positive. And so I'll be the last to say that was a bad site, because every site's, a critic will find a million reasons why not to do something somewhere. There's always a better location. There was always a better scenario. In this case, that land was bought by the district with an intended use, and we're maximizing the use of that asset, where you didn't have to buy other land, and then it didn't pose other challenges choosing a different site. So again,
so having to prep the land didn't cost additional money?
No, not at all. It belonged to the district.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Thank you, Mr. Palacios.
It didn't cost additional money to prepare the land for the buildings?
Well, even on the indoor, we had to prep that land no different. So in every construction project, especially one like this, you're dealing with a pole, so you're excavating. You're going to have to prep the land. No site is site.
Right. I don't think you're understanding my question. My question was, because you had to prep the land because of the additional problems that you found, did it cost extra? And that money that it cost extra, did it take away from the actual building?
No. So I'm glad you're asking. Okay, I fully understand your question. So going back, we're excavating downward. We're using your existing soil to shape that land rather than having to bring dirt fill in to adjust. So we're using resources that land lended itself to use, because we were finding different ways to address the foundation, the soil treatments. So in essence, I can't say that has caused. Now I'll tell you the one that maybe, but it was going to be a challenge everywhere. Your sewer, water was going to be challenges, and drainage. If we would have picked a different site, we would have to expend more on a retention pond, as well as maybe another lift station, or have some other challenges. I have not seen the impact. Now, yes, it is a big tract of land. You do have to have support facilities for these buildings. You can't just build a vertical building without parking, without a road access, without certain elements. Those variables are going to pose itself. We were blessed on the indoor that there was existing parking, and it was a site that the district had that didn't require a whole lot. Again, these are very big buildings, and just like any building of this nature has certain requirements that we have to do, but I can't say that it took away from the building. You see the buildings as is. I want to applaud the Rofa Red Group. It's much more than the city of San Benito at first thought of or envisioned when the bond committees were meeting. We retained a lot of those documents, and I want to say that we've expanded what their initial thought was from the original bonds on all three facilities, and we're still around budget.
Okay. And you mentioned, that some of the things that you had to negotiate with the city also, were those talked to, did y'all talk to the city beforehand also and let them know this is what we'll be doing and this is what you will be doing? Or is that something that came after also? Because I personally don't think that the city should be paying for a project that the school district had $40 million for, and then telling the city, well, we're building this, but you got to make sure you pay for that and accommodate us. Because what happens is that those costs are additional costs that then our taxpayers may have to pay in maybe their water bills or any other cost that the taxpayers might have. And so that's, to me, my question again is, did you all negotiate beforehand, or is it sounds like you all negotiated afterwards and kind of?
Well, and just to clarify, we began negotiating with the city after we were hired and after everyone else was hired. We didn't do it beforehand. We weren't hired prior to. However, let me address the lift station. That lift station services, for the future use of these two facilities, that one facility right there services 80% of it services residential area. The primary user is residential, so it belongs to the city. It's charging rates to the residential residents already for that lift station. There's current TECQ issues to that, and they have received funds to address and rehabbing these lift stations. So it wouldn't make sense why they would charge the district when they've already been at that point to addressing those issues with that lift station. And 80% of the revenue, or if not more, it's a lowball number, but 80% of the revenues is coming for residential use. The district should not be paying for that. And that's where I was leaning towards, having these open conversations to talk about these things to assure. Now we're doing something on that on the roadway, the intersection, the connection, the manholes, again, cooperatively, but we are going to be paying our service for these buildings as well. That's going to be going to the city for the use of that lift station. So we found a win-win where they asked us to address certain elements to it while they address the lift station. I applaud them for that. So no, the district didn't push off anything to taxpayers or anything. We found a better means to an end on partnering with the city, and it worked.
Thank you for the clarification, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Palacios, I want to go ahead and I want to thank you so much for the clarification. As far as these challenges were brought up, I mean, the board did its due diligence along with the bond committee to evaluate these services. We knew there was going to be some challenges, but at the end of the day, like the saying goes, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. So, yes, we did foresee some challenges in the near future with the ground situation that we had going on, and but that was not going to deter us from making sure that our kids had the facility that they needed, and moving forward, doing what we needed to do to make sure, doing our due diligence to make sure that this community had what they wanted and what they voted for. So it's not a perfect scenario, but we did do that. As far as hiring additional staff to take care of certain things, I mean, there's a punch. I mean, our staff are going to be taking care of, Dr. Carmen, that punch list, the checking the punch list. I mean, I'm more sure we can cross-train some staff to go ahead and take care of those additional responsibilities as well. So, I mean, of course, this is the infancy stages of this whole process, but as we continue moving forward, I'm more sure we can come together as a team and figure out how to share that responsibility, throughout. But once again, the board did its, at the time, did its due diligence. We supported this cause, supported exactly what we wanted to do, and it's coming to fruition right now. So, Mr. Palacios, I know you've been extremely, open as far as, everything that we needed to do and what we're doing, and we're still saving money, and we're providing awesome facilities once again, for our community and our kids. And I want to thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I always tell our staff and our partners, we're managing chaos because there's not a construction project that doesn't have challenges. As long as our hearts are open and our minds are open, and we're resourceful enough to find a better answer, that's been the will of the team, of every professional that's come there. I take no credit because it isn't me directly. It's a whole team that have been committed to do this work for San Benito and to stand by it. But I'm glad we've gotten this opportunity to break down, and I was looking forward to this meeting. I don't know if you see, am I screen sharing at this point in time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I can see it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you could see the slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, so I'm having technical difficulties on my end. I apologize for that, but I wanted to get to the last slide because I do want to address this issue of budget. I'm trying to get to the screen, so bear with me for just. Okay, am I there? Are you seeing my screen now?
It's moving.
Yes,
Your slides are moving, so you're like in slide 40.
Okay, so 40, right? So this is a
Yeah.
landscape plan. And just so I don't lose any more time, I'm just going to go quickly through this real quick. So we do have a landscape architect. Obviously, all these budgets are well within the package that the district has given us. The package has always been 40 million. And whether there's challenges or this or that or whatever, we've all been given the duty to make sure it works well within the numbers. I'll get to it in just a second. I'm going to fast forward through all of ROFA Red's plans and get to the last few slides to close and get to another. Okay, here we go. Oh. Okay. So where we're at, we talked a lot about the buildings themselves. We do have 90% construction documents from the ROFA Red group that have been completed along with all their specifications. It is a mountain of paperwork that we have been going through, peer reviewing, meeting with the consultants, going back and forth, meeting with the contractor to make sure that we're budgeting, to making sure that we're assuring that we're right on line, within line. We have done this on every stage, and I'll explain the stages. Again, I'm going to take the CMAR, that's Construction Manager at Risk. That's a procurement process that the district had a choice to go either with the design build contract, a Construction Manager at Risk contract, or develop the plan, go to the market and go to low bid. In this case, the district chose CMAR. Now, there's so many benefits to it, and I'm an advocate of it because it keeps the process transparent. It makes sure that you select your teams and you work through every phase of the design process to price it, to assure that you're not going down a path you don't want to go. And so this at the 90%, we did it at the 50% construction document phase. And it's very labor intensive because you got to go and decipher everything to assure that you can account for a cost. So we are going through that process right now with everyone. And so we are in the budgeting and value engineering phase of the 90% plans. We have issued those plans to the city for a courtesy review. Typically, they do a one review before they go to permitting. However, the city of San Benito, with their private consultant, is willing to take the plans and start initial reviews so that we can get through a lot of their questions and comments that we need to get through so that we make sure we don't lose any time. And so we're working with that at this point right now. We are anticipating bid advertisements once we complete those three processes. At that time, and we're shooting for February, so we're not far away. Hopefully we hit February. That means that once we get the bids coming in, we're looking at establishing the guaranteed maximum price, which is really the fancy way of just saying the bid from the contractor that for the performing arts and the natatorium. And so we're looking at bringing that back to the board in March, and that will solidify the contracts. So the benefit of a guaranteed maximum price bid means all risks. So as long as we've done everything we could to design it, to specify it, it's a guaranteed maximum price that the contractor has risked on themselves to deliver everything within the package. It's not so this will prevent change orders from contractors, construction litigation, and all of this processes. that seem to come out of construction projects. So we are, that's the benefit of the guaranteed maximum price bid. We're looking at building permits following that. Once we establish the GMP, the courtesy review will be helpful, and we won't lose any time. That is one of the things that I warn our partners, and I'm referring to our architects and our engineers, as well as our contractor, being the fact that they outsource the review process, and they being the city of San Benito. We just don't want to lose time. And so these were some of the challenges that I identified earlier, being the fact that the city does not have an engineering department and they don't do it directly within the city. It causes a little bit of time. We're trying to get ahead of that time. Now going to the next slide. Now this is a snapshot of the budget, okay? And it's a snapshot of the respective elements to this bond program. These are actual documents of the GMP 1 and 2, guaranteed maximum price bids 1 and 2. Now the reasons why there were 2 is we had the offsite utilities that we had to connect to prior to all the civil that's not building related, as well as the building itself. We've combined them together and we're about that 5.7 mil, okay? That's why you see the difference on the 5.7, it's a little bit up because we included all the offsite utility requirements that the city was asking for. Fire hydrants, all of that. Going into the GM site civil guaranteed maximum price bid number 1. And this was all of the civil, the crossing, everything that encompasses all of that, those costs. Was 1.8 million. The only thing that's pending is the final parking lot after they complete the GMP 1, the access road, the lighting, the final detention outfall, and the landscape. We're budgeting right now at about 1.2. That is a high number. I'd rather be conservative than miss it. So that I'm putting that number. I know Robert's there. We have some ideas of cost savings still. And so we're going to introduce them as we go forward to make sure we don't go over. On the PAC, on performing arts, it was asked, well, how much is this going to cost us? Well, right now, based on the 50% documents, and we're verifying that the changes with the structural steel, and it's really 2 elements. It's the steel and it's the concrete. Whether or not we're going to see there should be reductions. We're going to assume there's reductions, but I'd rather hold to the number that they gave us initially, which was 17,277,420. Now, having said that, there is a theatrical element that's aside from the brick and mortar that we'll have to address, which is on the high side. And I'll say that, and I'm going to leave that number in there because, again, until we go to bid, these numbers won't be realized until we go through the process of finding alternatives. All the work that we have been doing with all of our consultants to assure that we maximize the dollar. We're going to leave that number in there. So the totals include allowances and contingencies for that respective project. I can tell you it's somewhere around $1 million. Now, I don't think we're going to miss it by $1 million, but we're just going to assume. I don't want to reduce it from that total. Now, also, we still have some pending VE items as well as some competitive bidding. Now, I want to make sure that I make myself very clear. Just because we have a budget, once you go to bid, now you get the competitive nature. So you have general tradesmen going through, looking through the plans, telling our contractor, this is what it's going to cost. But when you have 10 other companies going at it, then we see prices always going lower. There's normally an index, and Mike will tell me that it's kind of low, between 2 to 3%. It might be more than that, but we're not going to account for that at this point in time. We believe when we go to bid, we're going to get good prices. That was a change that we saw on the indoor. At first, we were looking at about 6.7, and then lo and behold, after we did competitive pricing, final negotiations, we ended up at 5.7. So we believe there's going to be savings there. However, until we go through this process in the next 30 to 60 days, or 45 days, we're going to realize what those end numbers are, preferably lower than higher. On the natatorium, their current price is at $7,147,350. Of course, again, similar to the PAC, we're including the allowances and contingencies, as well as the pending credits that we're still counting for on the foundation and steel, and the same respect from the competitive bidding, which we believe will yield cost reductions. Now, if you total all of those right now, and without all of the contingencies and the competitive bidding, we're about 36 mil, plus or minus. When we realistically will go through this, once we go to market on all these numbers will be realized, which is far lower than the $40 million. However, there are still soft costs that we need to account for. These are the professional contracts, architectural and all. At the end of the day, when we ran our last number and until they become final, that's once we're under contract and already outbidded, we believe we're going to be where we need to, meaning those three facilities, far bigger than what was earlier anticipated, far greater and far more functional with the bond commitment that the district went out to the voters and got. We believe we're heading for a win-win. Of course, our work, we're in the trench right now. We're in the trench working with our architects, working with our contract to assure that we realize the savings, to assure that we can cover everything else. But that is where we stand, and I am open for any questions, budget related, if in fact you have any.
I guess the one I want to see is probably going to be on your bids on the foundation and steel, since the rebar, I think that with the demand and supply, I think, and with COVID, I think that price has gone pretty high now than what it normally has been. And I'm speaking when I'm hearing this from builders, that has gone a little bit high on the end. So maybe you are right in saying maybe where it should be rather than, trying to cut the cost.
No, and you're right. And we're not, see, I was given, and I hope that if I'm wrong, please tell me we're wrong. And I don't say I as in me, but I say I as in we, the teams. Mm-hmm. Our goal is that we do not compromise the integrity of the facilities, that they're aesthetically pleasing, they're fully functional, and that the district could really maximize the use of these three facilities. That is our sole goal. Second, and I know that, we go through these shouting matches with consultants because, I often get thrown the question, how many times more do we have to meet on this? Well, if it takes us 1,000,000 times to get it right, the one thing it cannot cost us community any more than it has to. And I say this because everyone that's on here and the handful that comes with them has risen to the challenge to make sure that we don't miss this by much or at all, or hopefully that we can come back, and which originally they asked, I hope you bring some money back, and we're hoping for the same. But we did not compromise. We have not compromised, but you are right. We do get nervous. COVID did something to the building community, and there's no doubt about it. We hope that we have enough safeguards in there to assure that we have some wiggle room to address those elements. But I appreciate your concern. That is about.
Yeah. And I deal with this every day, and so we hear it all the time, and this is what I'm trying to say. And the fact that the projected dates are never the projected dates, with the delay of material and everything else that we have to go through. And I'm sure that going through the city also and trying to get their permission and their clearance and their permits and so forth, that also is an obstacle. So I rather, I guess, see it on the worst case scenario rather than see it in the other shade of light. But thank you for your explanation. Thank you for your presentation, for your patience and your understanding, especially with us new board members that are coming in and we're having to hear and we're having to catch up. But I do thank you for your time and grateful that you gave us, and for your honesty, Mr. Palacios.
Well, and I'll close with this. We're available to you all, every one of you all. If there's a question you need an answer, please call.
Right.
We are available if you need to come by our offices, if I need to provide more backup, just to make sure that you are at peace with your
Right.
question. We have no
Yes.
problem with any challenge that there is. Please call upon us. We want
Thank
you to
you.
feel comfortable with where we're at.
Thank you for allowing us that open door kind of deal. And I really appreciate that, because you're right, with construction, there's always questions as you go along. It's never right there. And so I know, because like I said, I deal with it every day. And so, you know, I am familiar with some of what's happening here. So thank you so very much, Palacios, for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Mr. Palacios, thank you once again for this presentation. It was phenomenal. It was great, very informative. At this time, the next item on the agenda is item 3.1, committee concerns. Are there any committee concerns at this time?
Mr. Corona, if I may, real quick, just for everybody that's logged in right now or seeing us on Facebook Live, I just want to make sure that they know that our district public relations department will post these videos up on the presentation by Brian Group and the rest of the professionals on here. So I just want to make sure that everybody will be able to see it and get an update. But like, you know, I want to thank Mr. Corona for letting me speak, but Joseph, great job on the presentation, and thank you everybody else as well. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you to everyone.
And if I may ask, if we can get a copy of those budgets that you showed us at the end?
Yeah. Well, matter of fact, yes, we're gonna disclose them as soon as again, the information, it's very fluid, so it's changing as we're making changes, but absolutely, I will extend it. I'll personally email it to you. You have a question, if it takes multiple meetings to go over it, I want to make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're voting on. And again, please do not hesitate. I will make sure that you get every bit of this information.
Thank you.
And so the bids that you mentioned in February, those will be bids that your company will be handling, not the school district?
No, the district handles everything. We're only an administrative arm to help you advertise, receive them, dissect them, just to make sure they're in compliance to the law and the process that we're required to follow through the construction manager at risk. So we're a compliance arm, and we have got really good rapport with your district staff. They're great. They're wonderful. Everyone is wonderful at the district. You got an impeccable team, but no, we do not handle them independently. Ours is just sure that it followed the right procurement laws, and that at the end of the day, we dissect them before you get them, to assure that you're given the afforded opportunity to ask any questions and feel comfortable with whatever vote you render.
Mr. Palacios, this is Janie. I want to agree with Ms. Yanes as far as this information. You gave it to us a long time ago, but it's good to know, to be reminded of the situations. We need to be reminded, you know, about how's it going, how everything is coming along. We need to know all this. Not only do we as the board members, but like our community. And I'm so glad this was a very, very good presentation, that a lot of people out there are listening to us, listening to you, so they'll know where their taxpayers' monies are going.
Yes.
Thank you.
We gladly return at any point. We can make this a regular item. So I think it's critical that we make this a regular item and present to the changes from now till then. Just so that you're because this is the critical period we're in. So we look forward to the next meeting, and we'll be presenting again.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Palacios.
Mike.
The next item on the agenda is adjournment. At the time of, I apologize, 8:05, we are adjourned. The committee is adjourned. Thank you.